Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi shir.
Shalom and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi, Brachos Daf Lamed Ches. We're on top of the Amud. Says the Gemara, Omar le Abaye le Rav Yosef. Abaye asked the following question of Rav Yosef. Hai kuba da'ara, my mevorchen iloya. This unique bread called kuba da'ara, which was baked by pouring the liquefied batter, this loose batter of flour and water into the hole, to the pit on the bottom of the oven, where it baked into some sort of bread. It took on the form of lechem. Now the Gemara here is following the opinion that this type of lechem is chayav b'chala. The mitzvah of chala, of removing a piece of the dough, giving it to the kohen, does apply to this type of bread, to kuva da'ara. It's considered to be lechem with regard to challah. The question only is with regard to bracha. Which bracha does one recite on this lechem? Does one recite mezainos because it's merely like a snack, or does it really have the status of true bread, which requires a hamoitzi and a birchas hamazon? So that was the question of Abaye Rav Yosef. Hai kuba da'ara, this bread called kuba da'ara, my mevorchen iloya. Which bracha does one make on it? Omar later Rav Yosef responded, Misavras nahamhu, do you think this is really bread? Kuva ba'almahu, it's merely baked dough. It's meant to be used as a snack. Mevorchen iloya bar minei mezainis. And one merely makes a mezainis as is appropriate for a snack. It doesn't acquire the status of genuine bread, and we do not say hamoitze or birchas hamazon. Continues the Gemara, Mar Zutra, kava sudas iloya. He would establish his meal surrounding this type of bread. He would consider this to be his main staple of his meal, and therefore, ubarich eloya hamoitzi lechem and oretz v'shalish brachos. Therefore, since it assumed the status of genuine bread, he elevated its significance. Therefore, it did require a hamoitzi and shalish brachos, which are the three brachos of birchas hamazon. Explains Tosfos, there are other varieties of these types of semi-pseudo breads, where if one is kaveh suda, establishes his meal surrounding these types of breads, they assume the higher status of true genuine bread, and one recites hamoitzi and birchas hamazon. Rabbi Yonah points out that there are some cases where even kviyah suda, establishing one's meal on it, won't have any effect. For instance, these thin crackers, where even if one chooses to be kviyah suda on them, it doesn't matter, it doesn't change its status, it doesn't elevate it into a halacha, a din of genuine bread, and he'll still make a bar minei mezainis. Continues the Gemara regarding this kuva da'ara. Omar mar Rav Ashi, v'adam yoytze b'nei dechavasar Pesach. One can fulfill his obligation of matzah if he were to eat a kuva da'ara in a matzah form. He is yoytze mitzvahs matzah. My timer, why? Lechem oini karinim bei. Matzah is referred to as lechem oini, the bread of poverty. So we require lechem for matzah. This kuba da'ara is considered to be lechem with regard to matzah, and he can fulfill his mitzvahs matzah. So in conclusion, kuba da'ara has somewhat of a status of lechem with regard to chiyuv chala, the obligation of chala, which requires lechem, as it says in the parsha of chala, mi lechem aretz. Kuba da'ara too is considered to be lechem. With regard to matzah, is considered to be lechem, and he can fulfill his mitzvahs matzah, which requires lechem oini. However, there's one exception with regard to bracha. Hamoitzi lechem and oretz and birchas hamazon only recited on true genuine bread, which are considered to be a staple of one's meal, a fundamental element of our meal, and that requires true genuine bread. Kuba da'ara doesn't really have that elevated status, and therefore we merely make a bar minei mezainis and ala mechya. However, if one chooses to be kivei suda, to establish his meal today on this type of bread, he elevates its status, and now it assumes the status of ordinary bread, of genuine bread, a bona fide lechem, and he makes hamoitzi and birchas hamazon. Continues the Gemara, v'omar mar Rav Ashi, hai dusha de tamri, this honey that comes from the dates, date honey, mevorchen eloya shakol b'dvarei. We do not recite Bayer Priya 8 as we do on the date itself. Merely we say shahakol b'dvarei. My time, why? Why doesn't it have the same bracha as its parent fruit? Zeya ba'almahu, it's merely zeya, it's like sweat. It's moisture which exudes from the fruit. It lost its original status. It's lost its elevated status. It's not considered to be a fruit anymore. It's merely a liquid which requires a shaka. Says the Gemara, Kiman ki Tana. Apparently he's following the opinion of the following Shita, the following Tana. This is not, as we learned in the Mishnah, machlekes between Rabbi Lezer and Rishon in this regard. What is the status of juice that emanates from a fruit? According to Rabbi Lezer, the juice of a fruit has the same status as the fruit itself with regard to truma. We know that a fruit can be truma. One can set aside a fruit or a vegetable, a solid can have the status of truma, the kedusha of truma, the sanctity of truma. What about the juice that is extracted from that fruit? According to Rabbi Lezer, it has the same status as its parent fruit. It too is considered to be truma. If a non-kohen were to eat it, to drink it, he is obligated to pay a keren v'chomesh, the principal value plus a fifth, as is the halacha with regard to one who eats truma. According to Rabbi Yeshua, the juice of a fruit is considered to be a lower level. It's not considered to have the same status of the actual fruit, and is not considered to be truma. Says the Mishnah, Desnan, as we learned in the Mishnah, Devash Tmorim, honey from dates, v'yain tapuchim, apple cider, v'chamis sefunis, vinegar made from the end of season grapes, the low grade grapes which are turned into vinegar, usharmei peros, shal truma, other fruit juices of juice that is extracted from the fruit of truma. Rabbi Lezer mechayiv keren v'chomesh, if a non-kohen would drink it, he's obligated to pay keren v'chomesh, as is the din with one who eats or drinks truma b'shayin inadvertently. This too is considered to be truma. Rabbi Shua Poiter, Rabbi Shua says he's exempt from a keren v'chomesh, since the juice does not have the din, does not have the halacha, the status of its parent fruit, does not have the din of truma. Rashi points out that even according to Rabbi Shua, there are two exceptions: zaysim and anavim, olives and grapes, where the juice of those items are considered to be truma. We learn from Sukkim, they are unique. Olive oil or wine is considered to have the status of the parent fruit and is considered to be truma. However, any other juices is not. So too regarding our question of the honey coming from dates. Since it is a liquid extracted from the solid, it loses its status, it loses its elevated identity, it's not considered to be a fruit anymore, and instead of ha'etz, it requires merely a shakoil niya b'dvari. So Mar Rav Ashi was following the opinion of Rabbi Shua, who considers the juice on a lower level than the actual fruit. Continues the Gemara on a similar topic. A Talmud Chacham asked the following question of Rava: Trima Mao, what is the bracha to be made on Trima? He didn't explain what he was talking about. Well, I have a to the Rava, my Rava couldn't fathom what he was talking about. What exactly is this Trima? Yasser Ravina Kamei the Rava. Ravina was present in front of Rava when this question was asked. So Ravina turned to the person who asked the question. The Shumsumi Kamras, are you referring to a Trima made out of crushed sesames? Or the Kurtumi Kamras, or are you referring to crushed kurtumi, which is charkim, some sort of spice seasoning? Or the Purtzini Kamras, are you referring to the crushed grapes, the pits that remain after the grapes are crushed? And Rashi explained that they used to make some sort of concoction, they used to put other ingredients in, they used to eat it. So, which one are you referring to? This crushing, or that crushing? Now, Rava overheard this back and forth. Adahachi v'hachi, while this was going on, aske Rava l'daite. Rava, it entered his mind, and he said, Amalei, oh, chashilta v'ade kamras. Certainly you're referring to chashilta, which is a crushed food, and you wanted to know whether it retains its identity or it loses its identity. If something gets crushed, does it retain its old bracha, or does it assume a new identity and gets a new bracha? Ve'at kartem also, you reminded me a halacha, a ruling, hadamar Rav Asi, that Rav Asi taught us. And from there we can infer regarding your question. Rav Asi said as follows: Ha'itamish al truma, dates of truma, mutar la'asis men trima. One may crush it into paste, into date paste. Since the halacha is that one may not destroy, we cannot be mafsid truma. If one wishes to modify it, to improve it, that's okay. But if one goes ahead and even if he's intending to prepare a dish, to prepare some sort of food, and by doing so he's ruining, he's disintegrating the fruit, he's pureeing it and destroying its identity. That may not be done with a fruit of truma. So Rav Asi taught us that to take a date and turn it into trima, into crushed paste, that's okay, since it still retains its original form somewhat. The texture is still discernible. It's not considered to be destroying the dates. However, to make shecher, to make beer from it, that you cannot do. You can't turn the solid fruit into a liquid. That would be considered to be destroying it, and that cannot be done regarding truma. So Rabbi says, from there we can infer regarding the bracha as well, that if he's merely mashing it and it's still recognizable, it would still have its original bracha. For instance, if he takes a date, crushes into paste, and the texture is still noticeable, the bracha would be ha'etz. But if he purees it completely, liquefies it, and it's not recognizable, then the bracha would be shakal. So that's the answer to your question. Trima, it depends. If he's merely crushing it, ha'etz. But if he's liquefying the dates, then it would be a shakal. And indeed, the Gemara concludes, if he mashes the dates, makes it into paste, it still retains its original status and still considered to be ha'etz. It's still in its original state and still retains its original identity, kidam yikara, as before. Continues the Gemara, another similar topic regarding sisa. Sisa is a dish made of the flour of grain, of toasted grain that was toasted when it was still moist, and they mix in other ingredients, water, salt. So what is the halacha of this dish, of this type of food? We have a machlekes. Rava Amar shakol niyeh b'dvarei, Shmuel Amar boirei mina mezainis. Amar Rav Chizda v'loi pligi. It is not at all a dispute. They're speaking about different types of sisa. Ha ba'ava ha baraka. Shmuel, who says mezainis, he's speaking about ava sisa, which is of a thicker consistency, considered to be still a grain. It is a food and requires mezainis. Ha baraka. Rav, who says shakal, is referring to a liquefied, a loosened sisa that is considered to be a mashkin, a liquid, and requires a shakal. Ava, a thick one, la'achila avdila, they make it to be eaten, it's a food. Raka, the liquefied one, the refoka avdila, is made for therapeutic purposes, it's meant to be drunk, and therefore it's considered to be a mashkin, which requires a shakal. Okay, Maser Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef challenged this Gemara. How can you say that the liquid sisa is meant for refuah, for therapeutic purposes? We have a brayso that says as follows. On Shabbos, he may drink it. We know that on Shabbos, one may not take a refuah for minor aches and pains, something not absolutely essential. The Chachamim prohibited it on account of a concern that a person might go ahead and grind the ingredients and transgress the Isra of Teichen. So the brayso tells us as follows. Vishav the Yegrisha Boychashin, you may stir a shasus v'Shabbos. This dish called shasus, which is sisa, one may stir it and drink it on Shabbos. Boychashin means to stir something liquid. As Taisus points out, apparently we're speaking about the loose, the liquefied sisa, not the hardened one, because the term boychashin is stirring a liquid. Otherwise, it would say gibel, a lashon of gibel, of kneading something which is thicker. So apparently Bryce is speaking about which type of shasisa? The loose one, the liquid one. V'shoisim zeisam hamitzri, and one as well may drink sheisam hamitzri, which is some sort of concoction, Egyptian zeisam made of grains and some other ingredients, which also serves a therapeutic purpose. If the point of drinking the shasus, the liquid shasus, is for refuah b'Shabbos mishari, may one take a medicine on Shabbos? How can you suggest that a liquid sisa is a refuah? Then how may one drink it on Shabbos? Abaye responds to Rabbi Yosef. V'adle tizra, you don't either agree? Do you not agree that this is allowed on Shabbos? V'atnan, haven't we learned? All foods one may eat on Shabbos, even if his intention is for refuah. All liquids, shoysa, one may drink, even if his intention is primarily for refuah. How can that be so? Is it refuah aser? You must say as follows. Since we're speaking about an ordinary food, we're speaking about an oichlin or a mashkin, which is really food. So even though his intention is for refuah, for therapeutic purposes, nevertheless, since sometimes ordinary people, healthy people, will eat or drink this food, so it's not obvious that he's taking it for refuah. And the Chachamim did not prohibit it in this case. Why? The Chachamim only prohibited a refuah hanikeres, a refuah which is an obvious refuah, an act of refuah which is nikar, which is evident to be a maser refuah. However, regarding something which is considered to be on the status of a machal, of a mashka, of a food and a drink, even though if this individual's intent is for refuah, that is permitted, it's mutter. Why? Because because the onlooker, the person observing him, will say, this person, his intention is to eat, to have a meal. He's not doing a refuah. It's not nikar, it's not evident that it's a refuah. And therefore it's mutter. Hachinami says Abaye, here too regarding our Gemara of Shesisa, even though it's a liquid Shesisa and his intent is for refuah, nevertheless, since it's not obvious, since Shesisa is a grain, it's regular ingredients which a healthy person may want to eat, the onlooker will simply say that the person intention is to eat la'achila, and it's not considered to be an obvious act of therapy of refuah. And therefore it's mutter. Lishna Achrina, there's another version which differs simply in the terminology, but the substance is really the same. So you must say, the onlooker says that the person eating it, his intent is for eating. And the fact that it brings about a refuah, that's an automatic result. Refuah memel kahavya. The therapeutic result is an automatic occurrence. It's not obvious, it's not evident in the actual act of eating. Hachanami here too, regarding Shesisa, the same thing, it appears like a mas achila, refuah memel kahavya. The refuah will come automatically on its own. So, in conclusion, on Shabbos one may eat food or drink which can be eaten which sometimes is eaten by a healthy person, even though his kavan, his intentions for refuah. Similarly, regarding the shesisa, even though a shesisa raka is a liquid meant for refuah, and his intent is for healing, for refuah, nevertheless, since it's considered to be a food, it is mutter on Shabbos. Says the Gemara, okay, if so, why does Rav need to tell us that one is required to make a shahakal and a shesisa raka? If we see from the Gemara on Shabbos that it has the status of a food, so certainly one requires a bracha. Says the Gemara Tzricha, the Rav needs to teach us the halacha of bracha. Because if only from that Gemara of refuah on Shabbos, which teaches us that shesisa is considered to be a ordinary food, I would say that only regarding the permission to ingest it on Shabbos, with regard to that context, we say, yeah, it's an achila, it's an act of eating. The therapy comes on its own, the therapeutic effect happens on its own, and therefore it's allowed on Shabbos. That's regarding the permission, the heter of eating it on Shabbos. We say it's classified as a food. However, regarding bracha, perhaps, bracha falls into a different category. When is one obligated to make a bracha? When he intends on having personal pleasure from it. When a person, in intent, his primary kavanah is merely for refuah, perhaps, that doesn't require a bracha. Says in Mar Balhacha, over here regarding the halacha of bracha, Kivan da chatchila l'refuah k'mechavan, this person's primary intent is for the therapeutic effect. V'livrich le'klal, I would think perhaps no bracha is required. Kamash Malan, Rav needs to inform us, yes, a bracha of shahakal is required on the shesisa raka. Why? Although it's a refuah, given the islay hanomine, since he has physical pleasure from it, by bruchi, he needs to make a bracha. So in conclusion, the Gemara taught us a principle that when something retains its original form, its original status, then it has the same halacha as the parent fruit, as the original. When something changes its status, then it assumes a new identity and has a different halacha. So this is the underlying principle which was all these three halachas were based on. Number one, the halacha of fruit juices or honey from dates. According to Rabbi Yeshua, only yayin v'shemen, only wine and oil, is b'milsei koi, retains its original status. However, regarding other types of fruit juices, including honey from dates, they are la b'milsei koi, they do not retain the original status, and therefore There's an nafkamina, practical halachic nafkamina regarding truma, regarding bracha as well. We don't recite ha'etz, but rather merely a shahakal on these juices and on the day honey. The Gemara moved on to the halacha of trima, and the Gemara differentiates between, Rashi actually differentiates between the trima which is merely slightly mashed and retains its original texture. In that case, one can do so regarding truma. He's not being mafsid the truma. Regarding bracha as well, it retains its original bracha, very creates. However, if one purees it and is merasi completely liquefies it, purees it to the point that we don't see the original texture, you may not do so with peiros of truma. It gets a new bracha of shahakal. And finally, regarding shesisa, if it is a shesisa ava, that is considered to be milsei koi. It still retains its status as a grain, and mezonis is appropriate. However, if it's shesisa raka, if it's a liquefied shesisa, that loses its status as a grain, and it's considered to be a mashkin, a liquid, which requires merely a shakol niya b'dvarei. Continues the Gemara, Shala pasu eimer hamoitzi lechem min aretz. Tana Rabbanan, ma hu eimer. Which bracha does one recite on bread? Hamoitzi lechem min aretz. Hashem, who has brought forth the bread from the earth. Instead of hamoitzi, one is meant to say moitzi. Amar Rava, what is the reason behind these two opinions? Everybody agrees that moitzi is referring to past tense. Hashem, who has brought forth the bread from the earth, which is an appropriate bracha. We're speaking about bread that is found in front of him, and he is making a bracha on the fact that Hashem has already brought forth this bread. What do we find moitzi in past tense? T'chsiv, Kel Motziyah Mitzrayim. Bilam is describing the fact that Hashem has already taken Klal Yisrael out of Mitzrayim. So we find that moitzi is referring to something that happened in the past, a past event. Ki pligi. However, when is there a machlokes between the Chachamim and Nechemia? Ki pligi about hamoitzi, regarding the term hamoitzi with a hey. Rabbanan Savri hamoitzi da'apik mashma. Rabbanan hold that just like moitzi is referring to past tense, so too hamoitzi is referring to something in the past. As we find the Chsiv, hamoitzi l'chamayim mitzvah l'chalamish. Hashem has extracted for you water from the rock. It's referring to a past event. Rabbi Nechemia holds no. Hamoitzi de mapik mashma. Hamoitzi is referring to something that will happen in the future. Shenamar, as it says, hamoitzi eschem tachziv es Mitzrayim. Hashem is telling the Eden that Hashem is going to extract you from the bondage of Mitzrayim. So we see that hamoitzi is referring to a future event. Therefore, that is not appropriate for the bracha on bread. V'Rabbanan, however, the Rabbanan hold, ahu, that pasuk that you just quoted, we interpret it differently. That too is referring to past tense. How? This is what Hashem is telling Klal Yisrael. After I will take you out of Mitzrayim, when I take you out, I will perform miracles. Such great events, such great miracles will occur, so that you recognize clearly that I have taken you out of Mitzrayim. So although this pasuk of Hamoitzi Eschem was related to Klal Yisrael in Mitzrayim, but is referring to the future, meaning in the future when I would already have taken you out of Mitzrayim, when you will come out of Mitzrayim, you will experience the miracles, and you will know, you will recognize that I was the one who took you out of Mitzrayim. I was the one that was Hamoitzi Eschem, that I already took you out. So it's referring to, indeed, a past event. You will recognize that I was your Hashem who took you out of Mitzrayim. So we have a difference of opinion how to interpret this pasuk. According to Nechemia, Hamoitzi Eschem is referring to the future. According to Rabbanan, Hamoitzi Eschem Matachasiv Mitzrayim is referring to the past. So this is the basis of their machlokes. Everybody agrees that Moitzi Lechem Naaretz is appropriate since it's referring to a past event. The machlokes is regarding Hamoitzi. Nechemia says Hamoitzi is the future. It's not appropriate. Rabbanan hold Hamoitzi also is referring to a past event and is the appropriate bracha for bread. Continues the Gemara with the story. Mishtapchen Rabbanan, the Rabbanan praised to Reb Zera regarding an individual named Esbar Rav Zvid, the son of Rav Zvid, Achvad Rav Shimon Rav Zvid, the brother of Rav Shimon Rav Zvid. They praised him and they said he is a great man. Adam Gadolu, Ubaki Brachos. He's fluent. He's well versed in the halacha of brachos. Amar Lam, Rav Zera says, You know what? When he comes to you, please bring him over to me. One time, indeed, he appeared to Rav Zvid, to Rav Zera. They brought out a bread. Pasach v'amar. He started saying the bracha on bread, the moitzi. He said, moitzi lechem and oretz. Amar. So Rav Zvid said, Zeu shaim malo adam gadalu ubaki brachos. This is the man who is so great and fluent in brachos. He's an expert in the halachas of brachos. B'shleimi amar ha-moitzi. If he would have said the bracha of ha-moitzi lechem and oretz in accordance with the sheet of the Rabbanon, we would be able to learn something from it. Ashmin on taima. By doing so, he would maximize our ability to learn from him. He would teach us the true meaning of the pasuk of ha-moitzi eschem etachasivus and Shrayim. Because by formulating his bracha with ha-moitzi, he's indicating that ha-moitzi is referring to something in the past. And this will teach us the proper meaning of that pasuk. The pasuk of ha-moitzi eschem is referring to the past. Unlike Rav Nechemi's interpretation. So that's not something we would learn from him. Number two, Vashmin and Hilchas Rabbanon, he would teach us that the halacha follows according to the Shittas Rabbanon. So if he would have said ha-moitzi, we would learn something from him. Elo de Amar moitzi, but now that he simply said, he formulated his bracha with the word moitzi, Ma'ika Mashma, what did he teach us? Everybody agrees that moitzi is referring to a past event. So we should have done something that teaches us something, teaches us a lesson, teaches us an interpretation, a meaning of a pasuk, teaches us that the halacha follows in accordance with the Shittas Rabbanon. Says the Gemara, why indeed this person recite moitzi? He wanted to distance himself from machlokes. He wanted to be marking himself from a plukta. He didn't want to get himself involved in a dispute. Therefore, he formulated his bracha in a way that's acceptable to everybody. Concludes the Gemara. We recite the bracha of ha-moitzi lechem and oretz, the kaimon Rabbanon, in accordance with the sheet of the Rabbanon, the Amri, the Apik Mashma. The ha-moitzi is referring to a past event, Hashem who has brought forth the bread from the earth. Now, Tosfos asks, if moitzi is acceptable to all, so why do we opt for the option of ha-moitzi? Why don't we merely say moitzi lechem and oretz? Says Tosfos, because he brings a Yerushalmi that says in Farish Time, the reason is not to mix up the letters. If one would recite moitzi lechem and oretz, there's a concern that he might glue together the oisius. He would say Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Moitzi. There are two mems next to each other. Therefore, it's preferable to say ha-moitzi in order to enunciate the words with more accuracy. So, in summary, the term moitzi is certainly referring to a past event. What about the term ha-moitzi? According to Nehemiah, that is referring to a future event, and he interprets the psukim accordingly. According to the Rabbanon, ha-moitzi is referring to a past event. Ha-moitzi eschem, Hashem who has taken you out of Mitzrayim. Ha-moitzi l'chamayim, Hashem who has extracted water for you from the stone. And therefore it is an appropriate term for a bracha on bread. Ha-moitzi lechem and oretz, Hashem who has brought forth the bread from the earth. Continues the Gemara. The Mishnah says that on vegetables one recites a ber pri adama. Ketani yeraka is tumid the pas. The Mishnah lists together vegetables in the same context as bread, so we derive one for the other. Ma pa shenashtana they are, just as bread was transformed, was baked with fire. Af yeraka is nami, so to the vegetables that are discussed in the Mishnah are such type of vegetables shenashtana they are. They were transformed through fire. They were cooked vegetables. Apparently, we learn from the Mishnah, Omar of Noy Mishnah, Abayi, we learn from the Mishnah the following halacha. Zoisameres, the Mishnah teaches us, Shalakos, even vegetables who transformed through fire, they were cooked. The bracha remains bar pri adama, although they were transformed, they went through a transformation process through being cooked. Nevertheless, they retain the original bracha of bar pri adama. Continues the Gemara, we'll have a big machlekes in this regard. Darish of Chizdam, Shemabenu, Mani Rav, in the name of Rav. Shlakais, cooked vegetables, indeed, they retain the bracha bar pri adama. However, Rabbi Seinu, our teachers at Yard Meretz Yisrael, who descend from Meretz Yisrael, who are they? Umanai Ulam Shed, Rabbi Yochanan Ulam, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. He says as follows: Omar Shlakais, cooked vegetables, they lose their status. Mevarach Alein Shakol Nev Dvaroi. one merely recites shahakal and not hadama. So we seem to have a machlokes between Rav, who says cooked vegetables require hadama. They don't lose their status. However, Ula, in the name of Yechanan, holds the Brachos shahakal. They're considered to be on a lower level, a lower grade. They're somewhat disintegrated, somewhat dissolved. They lose their original status. Says the Gemara, Vani Oimer, I say, Rav Chizah says, it's not a machlokes. I will offer the following suggestion to resolve this machlokes. It's no machlokes at all. They're speaking about different cases. Any vegetable which initially, in its raw state, requires a adama, since it's meant to be eaten in that state, it's being eaten in the state which it was originally intended to be eaten when it was planted. So this type of vegetable, shlokai, once he cooks it, shakolim edvari, it gets degraded, it gets bumped down a level, and the bracha is shahakal. However, kol shetchilasa shakolim edvari, a vegetable which is not really meant to be eaten raw, in that case, when it's eaten raw, the bracha shahakal, such a vegetable, shlaka, if he cooks it, he elevates it, improves it, and the bracha will be boyer pri adama. So that is the two different scenarios that they're speaking about. According to Rav, shlaka requires adama. He's speaking about a vegetable which is not meant to be eaten in its raw state. Therefore, when you cook it, it elevates it and it improves it, and the bracha is adama. Ula, in the name of Yechon, was speaking about an entirely different type of vegetable, a vegetable which is meant to be eaten primarily in its raw state. Therefore, when you cook it, it gets degraded, it gets lowered down, it loses its chashiva, its significance, and the bracha is shakal. So there's no dispute whatsoever. They're speaking about two different types of cases. Says the Gemara, what exactly are these two types of vegetables? Let's try to figure it out. It is all well regarding the halacha of the vegetable that is not meant to be eaten raw, and when you eat it in its raw state, shakal is appropriate. Shlokai bar pi adama, when you cook it, it elevates it to adama. What are we speaking about? Mishkachas la bekarva v'salka. We're speaking about cabbage, karva, v'salka, beets, v'kara, pumpkins. These are meant to be eaten in their cooked form. Ella, however, the other case, the other case that you mentioned, that when it's eaten initially in its raw state, hadama is appropriate. But shlaka, if he goes and cooks it, he lowers it a level shahakal. One merely recites shahakal, since it gets degraded, it loses its status. What exactly are you speaking about? Give me an example. I'll give you an example. Tumi is garlic, and karsi is leek. These are meant to be eaten raw. And when you go and you cook it, you degrade it. It loses its chashiva significance, since it tastes better when eaten in its raw state. And that's what it was how it was intended to be eaten when it was initially planted. Therefore, it requires adama in its raw state. However, when he goes out and he cooks it, it loses its significance, it gets bumped down a level, and a shahakal is more appropriate. Tosfos asks, how can you say that these two items, tumah v'karsi, garlic and leek, become degraded when cooked? We see that it's evident that when we cook these items, they actually improve. Tosfos says they improve on account of the other ingredients, of the meat, of the salt that's there, but the actual garlic or leek in its pure form certainly is better eaten raw than cooked. Okay, so this is the first approach of the Gemara, Rav Chizah's approach, that everybody agrees, that everybody's in agreement. That simply depends when. If it's a vegetable that is primarily eaten raw, then if you cook it, it becomes a shahakal. If it's primarily meant to be eaten cooked, then when you cook it, it's adama. There's no real machlokes. Everybody is in agreement. Rav Nachman taught in the name of Shmuel, cooked vegetables require adama. Our friends who descend from Yisrael, that is Ula. Rashi explains that Rav Nachman was a colleague of Ula, therefore he referred to him as Chavreinu, our friends. He stated in the name of Yechanan, Omar, so it seems to be a machlekes. So Rav Chizda reconciled. Rav Chizda says it's no dispute whatsoever. However, Rav Nachman disagrees. He says yes, it actually is a machlekes between Shmuel, who holds that cooked vegetables require adama, and Ula, the name of Yechanan, who says shakal. And guess what? It's dependent on a different machlekes. It is indeed a machlekes, and it depends, it is hinged on a different machlekes that we find elsewhere. The Sanya, as we find in the Brachos. Yoitzin b'roki kashori. If one soaks matzah, you can fulfill the obligation of mechilas matzah. It still retains its status of matzah. Matzah which was cooked, as long as it hasn't dissolved, it still has the halacha, the status of matzah, and he fulfills his mitzvah of matzah with cooked matzah. I agree regarding soaked matzah. However, if it's cooked, it loses its status. Even though it hasn't dissolved, it is unfit for matzah. So if Nachman says, here we find a machlekes regarding something which was cooked, does it retain its original status or not? So hence, this is the basis for the machlekes regarding Shmuel and Rabbi Yochanan regarding cooked vegetables. When you cook it, does it lose its status and requires a mir sha'akal, or does it retain its original status and a hadam is appropriate? Says Rav Eloi, the connection is not really in place. The kuli alma shlokos merchalein for adama. Both shitas, Rameya and Rabbi Yossi, which discuss matzah, they both agree perhaps regarding cooked vegetables, it would be an hadama. This is only a machlekes specific. It is a discussion directed specifically at matzah. V'adkan like Rabbi Yossi hasam. Rabbi Yossi holds over there by matzah which was cooked, it's unfit for matzah. It has nothing to do with the question of whether cooking something makes it lose its status. By matzah we require the taste of matzah. As the Mefarshim explain, we require the taste of lechem oini, a bread of poverty, simple bread. A cooked matzah, it attains a richness, a cooked flavor that is not considered to be the appropriate tam matzah, the tam of lechem oini. But in tam matzah v'leka, and therefore Rav Yossi invalidates this type of matzah. But aval hacha regarding cooked vegetables, I feel Rav Yossi certainly would agree that the appropriate brachas adama, just because he cooked it, it maintains its original status, and it is considered to be a full-fledged vegetable with a bracha of adama. So at this point in the Gemara, we have three opinions, three shittas regarding cooked vegetables. We have the shitta that says that shlokos are hadama. We have the shitta that says shlokos are shahaka. And we have the shitta of Chizah that says it depends. If it was changed for the better, ishtani leluya, he made it more edible, this is the proper way of eating it, then the brachas hadam. However, in the reverse, if he took a good vegetable and he ruined it, he cooked it and it was in ishtana legriyusa, he degraded it, in that case the bracha is sha'akal nivadvari. Continues the Gemara, Amar Rav Chiya Amar Rav Yochanan, shlokos cooked vegetables mavarchan aleim bar pi adama. So we have a machlekes with regard to the opinion of Rabbi Yochanan. According to Rav Chiya Abba, the name of Rabbi Yochanan, it is Adama. According to Rabbi Yochanan ben Yefes, who's quoting Rabbi Yochanan, the bracha is Shachal. Amar Nachmar Yitzchak. You know, before we mentioned that Ula quotes in the name of Rabbi Yochanan that the bracha of Shlok is Shachal. Says Rabbi Nachmar Yitzchak, I contend that it was a misquote. Kava Ula l'shabashtek im Yom Yefes. The source of this quote is really Rabbi Yochanan Yefes, who quoted Rabbi Yochanan that the shlokos require shakal. Now Ula heard it from Rabbi Yochanan Yefes, he committed to his memory, and eventually he himself attributed the halacha to Rabbi Yochanan, but really it originated from Rabbi Yochanan Yefes. Ula never heard it directly from Rabbi Yochanan. Continues the Gemara, Toiber Rav Zera pondered, he wondered. We just brought a machlekes, a dispute, in the name of Rabbi Yochanan. Rav Chiya Abba says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Shlokos Adama. Rabbi Yochanan ben Yefes says in the name of Rabbi Yochanan, Shlokos Shahakal. Says Rav Zera, how could we record these two Manda Amrim together? V'chima inyan Rabbi Yochanan ben Yefes says to Rav Chiya Abba. How can we record this as a dispute in the name of Rabbi Yochanan? Rav Chiya Abba's version is so much more accurate, so much more reliable than Rabbi Yochanan ben Yefes' version. Why? Rav Chiya Abba, Dayik v'gam Shmaite, he was very accurate and meticulous in the way he learned and recited the rulings of Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi, of Yochanan's Rabbi. However, Rabbi Yochanan ben Yefes loy dayak, he wasn't so accurate. V'oid, another thing, Rabbi Chiya Abba, Kotlas in Yoimin, Ma'ada Talmudei, every 30 days he would review all his learning, Kamed Rabbi Yochanan Rabbi in front of Rabbi Yochanan. So he was very well versed in the different halachas of Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yomi did not have this practice. Tais explains that certainly he did not review his entire knowledge in such a short time, but really what he means to say is that whatever he learned in those 30 days, he would review it in day 31. So in any case, Rav Zeir contends that Rav Chia Ba'aba's quote in the name of Rav Yochanan is so much more accurate. Rav Chia Ba'aba says that Rav Yochanan's opinion is that shlokos require adama is something to rely on. That is the accurate version of Rav Yochanan's shita. V'oid, another thing, bar midain and bar midain. Aside from these two arguments, I have a direct proof that Rav Yochanan holds shlokos require adama. Dahutur Musa, the shalchay shavazim nekder. There was a bean that was cooked 7 times b'keder in a pot. V'achlei b'kinuch suda, they ate it for dessert. Also, v'shol Rav Yochanan, they came to ask Rav Yochanan, which bracha do we recite? V'amar lehu mevarchen lo yabar pri adama. Even though it's a cooked bean, the proper bracha is adama. So we see even when something gets cooked, it doesn't lose its status. V'oid amar b'chi barabba ani reisi. I noticed Rav Yochanan she'achal zayis maliach. He ate a salted olive which was packed in salt for a number of days, and Rashi explains maliach harikureseach, one that's packed in salt. The salt has the same effect as being cooked. So what bracha did he recite on this so-called cooked olive? Ubaruch alav tchil v'soif. He made a bracha before and after. Analyzes the Gemara. Yamas b'shleima. It all is good and well if you say shlokos v'mosayu kaimi. When something is cooked, it retains its original status. So therefore, regarding this cooked olive, betchilam ubaruch alav epriates, he made a bracha of epriates, just as he would do on an ordinary olive. Afterwards, he made al eitz epriates, which is an abridged bracha, a bracha achas mein shalish. It shortens, abbreviates the brachas hamazon. So that's all good and well if he holds that something cooked retains its original status, retains its original bracha. But if you maintain that shlokas lavi mosai kaimi, that something which is cooked loses its status, so now we all understand what Rav Yochanan did. Bishleima betchila. It's all good and well beforehand, before you ate the olive. So you recite a shakal since it's no longer considered to be a proper fruit. But afterwards, which bracha did he make? Says the Gemara, he made a ber nefashos. So we have no right, we have no proof from here what Rabbi Yochanan's opinion is regarding a cooked item. Perhaps he made a shakal with a ber nefashos. Continues the Gemara. Matzah of Yitzchak bar Shmuel. All those various vegetables are considered to be maror. One fulfills his obligation of maror. It could fulfill it whether he eats the actual yirakos or their stalks. Not if they're pickled, not if they're overcooked, not if they're plain cooked. He cannot fulfill his mitzvahs maror with a cooked vegetable. Says the Gemara, if you hold that vegetable which is cooked retains its status, so why can he not be yotze his mitzvahs maror with a cooked vegetable? Says the Gemara, there is different. Shani Hasam, maror is different. We require the taste of maror. We need the original taste of maror. When the vegetable is cooked, perhaps it's still considered to be a ber pri adama, but nevertheless the taste of maror dissipates, and therefore it is not suitable for mitzvah maror. So in conclusion, we have several shittas regarding cooked vegetables. We have the shita that says that it retains its original status, and the bracha is hadama. That is the shita of Rav, of Shmuel. The bracha is hadama. There's another shita which says shahakal. That is ula in the name of Rav Yochanan. Rabbi Maniaf is the name of Rav Yochanan. It loses its status. It gets lowered. It gets bumped down a level. It loses significance. It dissolves somewhat. The taste gets transformed, and the bracha is shahakal. And then we have Rav Chizda who tells us it depends what type of vegetable. If it's a vegetable which was improved by the cooking process, it came from something which is not really edible, not meant to be eaten raw, and now can be eaten because it's cooked, that requires adama. But in the reverse, it's a shahakal. Then finally, the Gemara discussed matzah and maror. According to one interpretation of the Gemara before, there's a machlekes regarding cooked matzah. The machlekes is whether cooked matzah is suitable for mitzvahs matzah. The question is whether it retains the tam matzah or that it loses its tam matzah. According to Rav Meir, it's suitable for matzah even though it's cooked. It's still considered to be matzah. We're not concerned with this tam matzah concept. According to Rabbi Yossi, being that it's cooked, it loses its tam of matzah of the chamoini and is not suitable. Finally, the Gemara says regarding maror, even though ordinarily vegetables which are cooked retain their original status, their identity as vegetables, however, it loses somewhat its taste of maror and is not suitable for mitzvahs maror. Tosfos and the Rosh both point out that l'halcha l'maisa, we say that a cooked vegetable requires a hadama, provided that it wasn't nishtana l'greisa, the cooking process didn't ruin it, didn't transform it for the worse. In that case, the bracha is shakol niyeh b'dvarei.